here we are in the TSL3 round of 8, day number 1, game number 1. We are here on Zelnaga Caverns, spawning in the top right as the Red Terran. We have Empire.Kas offering have fun, good luck, good game. Adelscott in the bottom left as the blue Protoss replying good luck, have fun. And just before we jump into the action, I want to take the time to remind everyone to go to teamliquid.net/raffle, that's RAFFLE, to sign up for a chance to go to Korea and meet the legend himself, Artosis.
That's right, man. I'll even shake your hand, perhaps give you a high five. We'll talk about that when you get here. So, definitely go and sign up for that raffle. I remember meeting the last guy that won that raffle. Oh man, did he ever enjoy himself.
Yeah, that's true. You did get to meet Ray and his girlfriend. I remember seeing those pictures. And we've just got the opening action going up here. I'm going to take a look at the APM tab because why not? And we can see Adelscott sporting a massive 400 APM, so really getting those fingers working here in the early game as he jumps up to 12 supply.
Yeah, 400 APM jumping up to that 12 supply. Pretty crazy by Adelscott, and he's going to go ahead, throw down his first gateway as Kas throws down his first barracks as well. So definitely not going to see any 15 or 16 Nexus this game from Adelscott, and well, that's smart, man. With a double choke like this, that's not a build you're going to want to open with.
Yeah, especially on a 1v1 map, but that is a build we know Adelscott has in his toolbox. So in this best of 5, maybe on Terminus Re or something large like Teldream Ultra, I'm really going to expect to see him bust out that Nexus first. We've seen him follow it up very well in the TSL in previous series, so a build he seems comfortable with as the refinery finishing up for Empire.Kas. Barracks just about to complete with 15 supply. He's going to go ahead and start morphing that command center into an orbital command. No scouting thus far. We have the Zelnaga Caverns completely filled with Fog of War as his first SCV just strolling out.
Yeah, this is really weird by Adelscott. A ridiculously tight build, not even going to go scout. And, I mean, by the time he were to scout, there should be Marines out already. So I don't even know if he's going to scout at all. Maybe he's just going to sit here for quite a while. But this definitely points towards him having a ridiculously tight build where he needs absolutely every single mineral to get it going.
Yeah. And we actually saw this against QXC. He would send out his first probe after QXC had scouted a 4-player map and gotten into his main base. And actually, QXC punished him in one of those games, as Adelscott, as you said, has very tight build orders to get those units and upgrades out quickly. He often sacrifices safer things, like in that game, a robotics, didn't get observers, got very, very heavily punished by the cloaked Banshees of QXC, as we see the first Reaper jumping out and heading into the main base of Adelscott.
That's right, he's going to be heading over there ASAP. He's checking around all the map, though. Doesn't want to find any proxy stargates or anything like that. Great move by Kas to get that very quick Reaper. And I have to say that I feel like Kas has already prepared a lot for Adelscott. As you said, he really doesn't like to scout too early. So that Reaper was the first unit out of the barracks for Kas, and so he skipped any Marines to chase out probes as we would normally see, got that slightly quicker Reaper, and it's little tiny changes like this that really will help you out against such a stylized player such as Adelscott.
Yeah, the amount of scouting going on from both players is actually incredible right now. We've got a little bit of Reaper micro as he's dancing back and forth, trying to pick off that Zealot. Now getting flanked by a probe, the sentry out. The Reaper may be able to take out the Zealot. It does indeed. Probably going to be running away. No, it wants to take out the probe. It's back for blood. Finally, the Reaper getting taken out, but there's an SCV from Empire.Kas sitting at the natural of Adelscott, so he is well aware that there is no expansion thus far.
That was some pretty fancy Reaper micro, some of the better Reaper micro I've seen. And both players playing a pretty safe game right now. 3 warp gates. It is a nice little pressure build that you can expand off of. I definitely am a big fan of it as opposed to 4 warp gates. In the meantime, Kas with his 3 barracks going. Stim just starting though, so he's going to have to remain a little bit defensive for a bit. And he's going to have to be pretty careful as well. You know, there's already 3 sentries out for Adelscott, and as he warps in another round or 2, he might be able to do a little bit of damage with Empire.Kas, you know, not having anything more than just Marines at the top of the ramp.
Yeah, with Adelscott floating quite a few minerals here, I'm wondering if he's going to take an early third or what he's doing here. He's got his expansion nexus up. When he put that up, he was floating about 900 minerals as he begins to push forward. gonna run up the ramp possibly, and as soon as he sees this bunker, he'll turn tail and run away. I've got to imagine. Just organizing his troops here, getting the Zealots in front, and now starts marching up the ramp, putting up Guardian Shield. Wow.
Oh my god. And here he goes. He's going to break it, and he's going to use those force fields the last second as the SCVs come down if he wants to break it, but no, he turns around, and the SCV is going to go back to mining, but should definitely leave one down there to repair that bunker up just a little bit. And, well, yeah, he's going to do that now that he's heard me.
Yeah, not the biggest deal. Adelscott sacrificing a Zealot there to put on a lot of pressure. Empire.Kas actually bringing this SCV back into his main base, so really nice attention to detail there. He's got that bunker now fully repaired. Adelscott continuing to warp in Zealots and reinforcing now with Stalkers and 2 Zealots. Has not taken a third base yet as he's equalized his minerals back down to the 0 where we like to see them. Transferring his probes over and just getting his natural online now.
Adelscott already rallying in some more Zealots. That's actually quite a few Zealots. A lot of energy on all of those sentries, but there's not a whole lot of surface area on that bunker at the top of the ramp. So not completely sure if he'll do any real attack, but this will keep Empire.Kas up his ramp for a little bit longer, but he does have a starport out. He is making some medevacs, so he should be able to break out pretty quickly. You know, those force fields can do a little contain on the ramp, but of course he can drop on the low ground, and Adelscott's going to have to be very, very careful, because if he ends up losing this small army he has up here, which is definitely something that can happen now that Stim is done, then Kas is going to have a huge window to go down and cause some serious damage at his expansion.
Yeah, but look at Adelscott spreading his units out. He's got vision of these 2 medevacs. He's fully aware that this is going on. I'm looking back at his Zealots and Sentries. I'm wondering if he's going to bring those back.
God.
He may be able to focus 1 medevac down. Yes, he is able to get the medevac down, but the army does drop out, so now it's mobile. And in the eastern side of the map, there are no concussive shells as Empire.Kas really wanted to get that stim pack out, which is complete. There was a force field dropped at the ramp as he recalls the rest of his army back down. Empire.Kas trying to swing around, but Adelscott is going to be there in time. I feel like Kas probably should not commit to this attack, and looks like, yes, he hears me and turns around. Very smart play.
Dude, I don't know how they're hearing us when we're passing off replays, but alright. Well, Kas finally going to float his command center out. That diversion did allow him to expand, but again, losing that dropship with a couple units inside of it, that's kind of a big bruise, and already we do see the supply difference. It is 90 against 80 food with Adelscott in the lead. He is adding some more gateways, getting that forge up, pushing out an Immortal as well to have this very strong ground unit army. And he's looking really good right now, Chill, even warping in some more sentries to make sure that he has enough for any force fields or guardian shields he really needs. And I feel like, you know, he's in a little bit of control right now, but the second command center is floating over. So if he gets that into a planetary pretty quickly, the gateway style of Adelscott's going to have a pretty hard time busting it.
Yeah, and you know what I'm really interested is that Adelscott has actually changed his style a little bit. He went 3 warp gate and then put down this robotics. I believe that's because he realized his old style was weak against Banshees, and just in preparation for that, he wants to get the Observer and the Immortal out. But now that he's a little bit safer, he's got that Forge dropping the upgrades, Chrono boosting that out, and he's still very gateway heavy. So I like that he's made small adjustments to his build order. And on the other hand, as you mentioned, Kas does secure that gold expansion and is now morphing into a planetary. So that is a big deal for him to secure that against his gateway heavy style.
Yes, indeed it is, and some poor force fields going up that's going to allow Kas to hold that for a little bit. And another really interesting thing going on is that we do have the +1 attack going for Adelscott as opposed to the armor. Armor oftentimes used a lot more with Zealots against this type of build from Kas. So I'm really interested into why he changed that around, and it looks like he's going to get ready to take his gold base, which he is going to throw up right about now. And I gotta tell you, man, Kas is so impressive. Look at this. Adelscott trying to walk in here and throwing some force fields up behind. When those Zealots get in there, Kas gonna be in a lot of trouble. Oh my god, the Zealot's doing tons of damage, taking damage, dealing damage. And will he be able to break through? Kas sending more and more units down. Adelscott army is falling, and oh my god, that was such a weird engagement. Not something I was expecting to see.
Yeah, this is the way Adelscott tends to play, is he sacrifices his Zealots, keeps warping them in as a mineral sink, and then tends to favor going directly to High Templar, directly to Colossi, and really spending his gas on those upgrades. However, he usually gets blink more quickly than we're seeing here, and in fact favoring the robotics base, so not going down the blink into High Templar tech route, at least not yet. He wants to go for Colossi. I'm also wondering about his decision to take the gold expansion, because Terran is typically the race that can dig in and control space more easily than Protoss, and by taking this expansion that just looks across the cavern directly at Terran, I feel like he's setting himself up for kind of a man-on-man engagement that he might not want to fight thus far.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a nice view, but it's sitting right there, and without his speed salts, without that armor being done, it could be hard to really stop any harassment from Kas. But I do like the fact that he's switching up his style a little bit. I love that he's actually getting some Colossi, because without the Colossi, damaging Terran that has a planetary up in that location is going to be pretty hard to do. You know, even you bring in the regular Adelscott army of a lot of speed zealots and stalkers, they retreat to that planetary and suddenly things are going pretty badly for you. So I like the changes we're seeing in his style. Will it work out though? Kas really being a macro beast right now. He's up at 150 supply against 122, and Adelscott still floating a lot of minerals.
And you know what Kaz has actually done is realizing that he doesn't need the Vikings. He swapped out the reactor on his starport. So really, you know, getting the maximum efficiency out of all his buildings that he can. Now finishing up a second engineering bay. He's completed +1 attack, now working on +2 attack and +1 armor with the armory complete. And he's got another expansion floating over to the 3 o'clock, excuse me. But this pylon scout is going to make Adelscott well aware of this expansion attempt.
You know, I totally love this style of Kas. The guy is so aggressive at expanding, always throwing up command centers. And now as that Adelscott army moves to the right, down comes the Kas army. And Adelscott, for a command center with nothing at it, looks like he's going to lose his Colossus. And the Nexus, I'm sure, is going to go down. Here he goes, stimming into that Nexus. And yeah, that Nexus is not long for this world. Chill. Oh my god, huge attack by Kas. Totally playing Adelscott like he's a flute.
Yeah, Adelscott has to be very careful here. He needs to bring back his army, position it well, and then attack. He cannot simply A-move into this. As the Colossus gets tagged by the Marines and Marauders, taking down completely Adelscott, trying to form up as he's lost a second Nexus. Kas is now charging toward the ramp, taking out pylons. Adelscott severely supply blocked as he puts up that Guardian Shield and begins to attack forward, but the Bio Ball may be too much with that +1 attack. The Force Field Wall going up, trying to mitigate the mobility of the ball, but it's just too much. The final force field cutting them off, and Adelscott has dealt with phase 1, but phase 2 is still there. I'm actually surprised with the amount of efficiency he's getting with his units, Adelscott that is, but Empire.Kas just with too much. GG called by Adelscott in game number 1. Kas playing beautifully.
Wow. You know, I was a Kas fan before, but he is so unbelievably good with his Marine Marauder. You know, once he lost that very quick dropship and he did absolutely no damage, I felt like, wow, you know, is Adelscott just going to beat another Terran? But Kas showing just superior decision-making, getting that quick planetary up to take on the Adelscott style. Just perfect movement of his army, and Adelscott really paying for it that game.
And you know, we mentioned that we liked how Adelscott changed his style, but I really felt like he looked like a shadow of his former self. He was a little bit slow on that expansion, whereas the Adelscott we've seen previously was very aggressive at taking that first expansion, and actually he got out-expanded by Kas taking that very early third at the gold. Adelscott was behind on that. He wasn't very mobile. He didn't go blink. He actually tried to switch over to the robotics, and it just looked like, you know, he was trying to go in a few too many different directions. As you mentioned, yet again, didn't get that +1 armor. So I'm hoping on a larger map, like we're moving into game number 2 on Terminus Re, that Adelscott is going to kind of let his nerves kind of sink away. He's going to have that time on a large map where not a lot is going on, and he can really get into his macro, hit his stride, and then, you know, play the game that we've seen Adelscott play before.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see that as well. You know, I think he really got thrown off by that super quick gold base, because he's normally known for having so many gateway units that a lot of Terrans are like, oh, I don't know how quick I want to take that. But Kas has certainly discovered some ways to pick apart his style. Again, Planetary Fortress against just gateway units. especially early on, is going to be massively powerful. So Kas really bringing a lot of brains, a lot of bronze, and super macro against Adelscott. He's definitely going to have to bring back his real true style that he is a master with if he wants to take game number 2.
Yeah, and as you mentioned in game number 1, bringing that command center over really forced Adelscott's hand. He needs to get over there and kill it before it gets up to becoming a planetary, or else his gateway units are never going to kill that. However, we saw how easily his entire army was drawn away, and then Kaz really hit that sick timing. So moving away from that small map, we're now here on game number 2. It's going to be Terminus Re. Artosis, do you have anything more to add to the hype before we jump into game number 2?
This is so exciting. I don't know how I could possibly hype it up more, Chill. Please, let's just start it. I want to see, can Adelscott come back, make it 1-1, or will the monster Terran from the Ukraine Kas go up 2-0? A very important game for Adel if he wants to win this series.
Yeah, seriously, and that's the question everyone has on their mind. Is Adelscott going to turn back into the beast that we saw take down QXC and I'm MVP? And we're going to see that on game number 2 right after this.